What's up, party people? I'm Benjamin Lewis and welcome to the first video on the Beyond Network, a place where we go beyond games, films and more to bring you news, previews and reviews. On the first episode of Beyond the Game, I'm talking about why Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers could be the biggest and best superhero game ever. Developed by Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, Marvel's Avengers is a story-driven third-person action-adventure game with RPG and co-op elements. They recently revealed more on the game in their inaugural War Table livestream a couple of weeks ago. Alongside the single-player story, co-op missions and war zones will be available to play solo with AI Avengers or up to 4 players online. Now, why do I think this game has potentially 10 years in its lifespan? The simple answer is the DLC model they've implemented. They've promised that almost all future content, including characters, regions, and story content, will be added to the game free of charge. So yes, like many games of the last few years, it's operating as a live service model. Certain cosmetics will cost real money, and that's about it. On launch, you'll have 6 playable Avengers: Iron Man, Cap, Thor, Black Widow, and Miss Marvel, as well as the Hulk. The studio says they haven't forgotten about Hawkeye, and Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, was a stinger at the end of one of the first trailers, but it's unconfirmed if he's playable. This game could last 10 years if they play their cards right. I genuinely believe so. Firstly, they would need a consistent stream of new areas and missions to keep people playing, but most of all, new heroes. This could work in their favour because of the vast amount of people still on a superhero hype after Avengers Endgame became the biggest film ever. Now, not all comic fans or MCU fans are gamers, but there is a big crossover rate. The amount of heroes that Crystal has to play with is mind-blowing, but they would likely stick to the main Avengers we know and love. However, I believe what could set them apart would be big DLC expansions involving other heroes, most notably the Fantastic Four and the Guardians of the frickin' Galaxy. After the War Table, there was a survey you could complete, which naturally I did. It asked the usual demographic questions, what you enjoyed most about the stream, and how likely you are to buy it, etc, etc. But then the questions got interesting. They asked how big of a fan I was of the Fantastic Four, and how big of a fan I was of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this could just be that they want to see what kind of fans that would be playing the game. However, I think it was something more. I think they wanted to find out the interest of having those characters added into the game at a later date. Just imagine the Fantastic Four, who are or have been members of the Avengers in the past, added to the game, involving a new story, a new region, the Negative Zone, discovered by Reed Richards himself. Not only does this expand playtime and the play area for gamers, but the in-game universe as a whole, especially if they could introduce Annihilus as a new villain. This is definitely possible. We've already seen GTA 5 last through 2 console generations, and it's about to be on a third, with no hint of GTA 6 coming anytime soon, and that's because they've perfected their DLC additions, and Crystal has to learn to do the exact same. Destiny 2 also recently announced 3 new big paid expansions coming over the next 3 years. Avengers could go that route, but after promising 3 DLC elements, it's unlikely, but this could always depend on the level of work put in and the size of the DLC they wanted to add. We already know that Avengers will get a graphical upgrade for 4K textures and 60 FPS support on PS5 and Xbox Series X, so if they can continue to roll out graphical overhauls for several years to keep it on par with the games releasing over the next generation as well as content, then they could have one of the biggest games ever. This will likely depend on money made from microtransactions, however, as well as the current player base. If it drops off early and the transactions aren't appealing to players, rip my boy Anthem, then the game could lose support in a matter of months. We've seen it happen. This is why consistency is key. Leave the player wanting more. Oh, a new character, sweet, I'll hop on with the boys. Then they play for a while and then they maybe look for a different game, and then boom, a new region or another new character. It's about keeping those players who maybe aren't as devoted and won't play constantly. Those players, keep them hooked to the game to keep that player base and the game itself alive. I mentioned earlier about microtransactions for cosmetics. These will obviously be the coolest looking and most desirable outfits for each hero. Let's face it, they're probably going to be costumes inspired by the MCU. Now, they've remained pretty tight-lipped about this so far, which I respect, as they're striving to create their own Marvel comic story and not relying on the films, which I genuinely believe is the best direction for it. Yes, they receive backlash from people saying the characters don't look like the MCU actors, but these are people who don't understand how expensive it would be to license those likenesses. That being said, they'd be stupid not to capitalise on the MCU fanbase and the desire to wreck enemies as Infinity War Thor or Endgame Cap or Iron Man Mark 6 from the films. So, and you can quote me on this, I fully expect MCU inspired costumes to be available in-game for real world cost. One day. They could also introduce the Guardians of the Galaxy, which opens up, well, another galaxy, the Kree, Skrulls, and maybe even the Shi'ar Empire, and everybody's favourite Titan, Thanos. I believe this expansion is more likely partially due to the renewed interest in the Guardians over the last few years, but also because we know the Inhumans play a pretty big part within the game's world and story, especially considering one of the main characters, Kamala Khan, is Inhuman. So I'd say it's only a matter of time until the Inhuman royal family, Black Bolt and all, show up in the game. And considering they have notable ties with the Kree, it's begging for a Guardians introduction. Now, expansions like this, they may decide to monetize them depending on scale and ambition. I mean, I wouldn't mind if I'm getting another 10 to 15 hours of game time, maybe on different planets, even if it's single player or with friends. But again, if they stick to their promise, it will likely be free. It just may take, maybe 2 years down the line for such a big expansion to release. I believe the first games year will likely just be new regions, maybe 4 to 6 new characters, solely Avengers, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Falcon, maybe Scarlet Witch, and then once player base and funds from microtransactions are established, they can start to release the big expansions like the Fantastic Four and the Guardians, which they're probably already working on behind the scenes. We'll see. I mean, maybe we'll see the X-Men, but they'll probably get their own game in the future, that's for sure. To summarise, this game needs consistent quality content, including characters, regions, and microtransactions players actually want, and lasting commitment from the studio so it can hang with the big boys when the next-gen consoles are released. I mean, if it lasts, this game could really become a universe we can truly immerse ourselves within. In the next 5 years, we could see it go through a rebrand like many games. Who knows? One day we could be playing Marvel Universe Online. Thanks for watching the first episode of Beyond the Game. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to keep it locked on the Beyond Network.